Welcome back to the Monmouth Basketball Hawks Nest podcast. By myself tonight. Mark had a family event going on, so it's just going to be me tonight. First time we've had that in a couple of years. So we'll see how I do on my own. Tough weekend for Monmouth. They fall to Siena twice in the weekend. It was a matchup we talked about, hoping that we were getting them at the right time because they got shut down 3 times recently. Maybe they'd be rusty. Maybe Pickett wouldn't be himself. I'll tell you what, they didn't look rusty at all. Maybe a little bit at times, but it didn't seem like they were winded. It seemed like Monmouth was more winded than they were at times, and we've been playing a little more. But that's Siena. They're a very good basketball team. They were the overall favorite, no doubt about it, going into the year, and they beat us. I mean, they beat us pretty good too. First game on, I believe, Sunday was a great game. Monmouth fell 78-77 on the road to Siena. And it was back and forth the entire game. They took jabs at each other throughout the game. Monmouth actually led this one at the half. Pappas hit a big three. They go up 37-31 at the half, and things are looking pretty good. It felt like the momentum really shifted, but it seemed like everything kind of changed in the second half. It seems like Siena made great adjustments, and we didn't. It seemed like we kind of went away from what was working in our game plan in the first half. And part of that is maybe trying to trick them or do something different. Part of that is Siena making adjustments. But either way, they dominated the second half. And it was close the whole way. They never really got away from us. But, it was one of those games that was right in our grasp, and it didn't happen. It was a really, really tough game to lose. Again, none of these games are must-wins at this point. But, versus Siena with tiebreaker stuff at the end of the season in March, this is a game you look back on and wish you had. Dion Hammond had 20 points in the game, 5 rebounds, 3 assists. Nice game from him overall. We'll get back to him a little bit later. Pappas with a nice day, 15 points. McClary's been playing great. Marks McClary, 9 points and 8 rebounds. He's been doing a little bit of everything for this team, hitting a couple 3-pointers here and there, taking strong drives to the lane, rebounding his ass off. He really is playing good basketball right now. Probably some of the best we've seen him play in a Monmouth uniform. Good for McClary, stepping up when it's needed. Gobb had a nice day with 8 points. And then little contributions here and there. Miles Rue, 7 points, 3 or 4 shooting, looking really good again. Sam Chapu, not so much for him. He's really struggling, and he hasn't gotten out of his funk yet. We'll get back to him a little bit later, but I'd be worried if I was him with that starting job. Miles Rue is breathing down his neck a little bit, and he's playing great basketball. And Sam has not figured it out this year. We've talked about him in the past, being high on him, and he's got it. He's got the talent. It just hasn't really worked for him this year. I don't know what to really say about it, but I don't know if he's going to be starting for much longer. He was 0 points on 0 for 3 shooting, only 3 assists. And, I think the time's getting close to maybe trying somebody else in the starting lineup, but we'll see what happens. Miles Foster had a nice day, 6 points and 3 of 5 shooting, had a couple nice baby hooks in there. Malik, not his best day, but he's been so strong for us. It's tough to complain about that. Ruddy played about half the game. Wasn't great. He played good defense, rebounded well, but the offensive side of the ball, he hasn't really gotten it going lately. Free throws have been great, but finishing down low has been kind of tough for him. And totally didn't have a good game. That's going to hurt. 3 points and 1 for 5 in 22 minutes. That's going to leave a mark. That's not going to play for Monmouth. While on the other side, Pickett, I can't believe how many minutes these guys played in that game. I mean, Pickett played 39 minutes. The guy barely left the court the first game of the season after all the quarantine issues and conditioning issues. I mean, these guys must have been running on a treadmill in their dorm room all week because these guys were in shape. They were ready to go. Pickett had his typical game, 20 points, 6 boards, 6 assists. Young had a big game. I'll get to him later. I'm not a fan of him already. 15 points, 10 boards. Camper didn't have his best night, but he was still strong, still hurt us in certain ways. Hopkins and him barely came out of the game, 36, 37 minutes respectively. And Stormo had a big night too. Stormo had 11 points. When you look at the final stats of the game, it's interesting how Monmouth lost the game because they outshot Siena from the field, from the 3-point line, shooting 47 from the field, 42 from 3. And Monmouth actually out-rebounded Siena. And that was without Jarvis Vaughn and Ruddy only playing half the game. So it's amazing. They actually out rebounded them. Turnovers, we have 5 more, so that's going to hurt. In a 1-point loss, which was really 4. Pappas hit 3 late in the game to make it 1. But 5 turnovers more than the other team. You take 2 or 3 of those away. They don't get a couple easy baskets in transition. That's the game. But what it really came down to was free throw shooting. Monmouth missed a ton of free throws in this game. We left a lot on the board there. 11 for 20 from the line is not going to cut it, especially against Siena. It's a team that you can't make mistakes against. It's kind of like in football, playing the old Patriots, playing those good Steelers teams. If you make a mistake, they're going to pounce on it. And it's kind of like playing Duke, on the road in the ACC. If you make a couple mistakes, they're going to burn you and they're never going to let you back. That's Siena in this conference. You can't make a lot of mistakes and leave points on the board. And we missed a couple layups in this game. And, Deion Hammond missed a lot of free throws. It's one thing that he's going to go back on and look at in this game. And listen, this is not me criticizing Deion, okay? Deion is the guy, okay? We are not, in my opinion, even a top half MAC team without Deion. The MAC's pretty good. We're probably a bottom 3 or 4 MAC team without Deion. And that's not to say anything about the other guys because they're all good pieces. They're all talented guys. But Deion's the guy. So if you don't have him, you're not talking about us competing with Iona and Siena and St. Peter's. You're talking about us positioning with Ryder and Fairfield and whoever else is at the bottom, Canisius. Monmouth isn't Monmouth without Deion Hammond. But he knows he's got to be better than that. He missed, I think, at least 7 free throws in the game. I don't have the number right in front of me. I did before. But he can't miss that many free throws. He just can't. And he knows that. He's the first person that's going to admit it. He's the first person that's going to be hard on himself. So I'm not going to, beat him up here. He knows he's got to be better than that. He knows he's a leader of this team. He's got to play better. And listen, he scored 20 points. But with the free throws, he should have had at least 25. And, between the free throws, totally not playing well, and, the missed opportunities in this game through layups and giving Siena too many open shots, that did us in. And, that's the difference in the game. It's 1 point. And, who's to say that, if Deion makes a few more, Siena might play differently. They might still win the game. Sure. Deion didn't blow the game. It wasn't just his fault we lost the game. We're playing a team that hadn't played since last year. We should have been up by more at that point. It shouldn't have been that close to the game. But, Deion knows he has to make those. And, guys, listen, this is early in the year, all right? I know people are all over Facebook upset and frustrated, and I get it. And I've been one of those people for a long time, too. But, trying to view this season and what it is, this is not a normal season. We keep saying it. They didn't get a preseason. They got shut down basically almost the entire preseason. Over the summer, they couldn't do their normal stuff. They can't put their defenses in. And King Rice alluded to that in the press conference. All of our traps are terrible because we couldn't teach our traps in practice. We're doing it, but they're not effective because they don't know how to do it yet, especially the freshmen. Free throw shooting. I'm sure these guys shot free throws over the summer, but you know what? When you're dealing with what they're dealing with, and everything is discombobulated. This is not a normal season. So while I am frustrated that Deion missed a ton of free throws, especially late in the game, it's hard to knock these guys for anything right now because what they're being asked to do right now on top of their academics and basically not having a life. Your life right now, not even seeing your family, your life is going to the dorm, eating your meal, and going to practice and going to games and back to the dorm. That's your life. So these guys are sacrificing a lot, and, it's tough to get on them for it, but, Deion knows he's got to be better than that, and he will be better than that. Deion is an all-MAC guy. That's something he's going to correct very quickly. I'm not going to be surprised at all if next weekend he goes 12 for 12 from the line in those games against Marist. He's going to figure it out. But either way, very tough loss for Monmouth. We were hoping they would bounce back the next day. It didn't happen. They got beat down pretty bad. King called it in the presser a good old-fashioned whooping. They lost 76-62, and it was tough. And I make a correction here. Pappas hit a big 3 at the end of the half in this game. He also hit one late in the other game, but he hit the big 3 at the half. It didn't get off to a good start this game. Siena gets up to 11-2 start, and you're like, oh no, we had our shot yesterday. This is very bad. You can't let Siena get to an 11-2 start, but Monmouth goes on a 10-2 run and gets it to 13-12. You're feeling a little bit better about things. It's okay. Pappas hits the big three at the end of the half, takes the lead with about 10 seconds to go. We're like, all right, we're back in this game. Things are okay. With 14 minutes left, it was no longer okay. Siena extended the lead to about 9, and it never really got closer from there. Siena had as much as a 17 or 18-point lead, and they never really let it slip below 11. So Monmouth really never got back within single digits even. They made a couple mini runs, like a 4-0, 6-0 run here and there, but they just couldn't get back into the game. And they just got beat down. I mean, they got beat down by a better team that had seen this the day before. They're not scared of anybody. They're not worried about their conditioning. Even Pickett said, I think he either said it to King or he said it to Coach Carm somewhere. He said, I'm 21 years old. I don't care about my minutes. I want to play. And he's also trying to impress NBA scouts too. So, Pickett's not going to worry about his minutes right now. So, they'll manage those when they get to play against Ryder and some of the dogs of the conference. They'll play Pickett 25 minutes instead of the rest of the game. They're not worried about those minutes against Monmouth. But part of the problem was I feel like Monmouth always needs to speed things up. And Siena made some great adjustments again in the second half. And they made Monmouth play mostly a half-court game. And when you do that, the transitions that you do get, and when they do allow it over a slip-up or something happens on a turnover, you have to execute. And, Sam Chapu misses a wide-open layup. There were a bunch of missed easy open shots in the lane. You can't give away opportunities like that. If you get those opportunities in transition, you have to take advantage of those, and we didn't in this game. You're not going to beat Siena missing layups and not shooting well at all the way we did. It prevents you from capitalizing on your strength. That's what it does. So Monmouth's got to be better in transition. And at home, they typically are. On the road, in years past even, they've struggled in transition. So hopefully next weekend they're back home against Marist, and they get back into their transition, and they start playing better that way. Hammond had a tough night, 12 points. Probably wouldn't have from the night before. I mean, he took a ton of shots, played a lot of minutes. He scored 12 points in 30 minutes here. Pappas took over a little bit, 16 points, 28 minutes. Nice game for him. Only 9 points from the rest of your starters. All right, that's a problem, guys. Ruddy only played 12 minutes in the game. I don't know if that was a coach decision. I don't know if he was banged up. We know he's recovering from injury. Maybe they just wanted to limit his minutes a little bit. But he barely saw the floor in the second half. I kept thinking to myself, when's the last time Ruddy was out there? And I don't remember. He did not play much in the second half at all. And you also had McClary only scored 4 points. He had 9 boards, though. So really, McClary did his job. And that was it. Sam didn't score in the game. And it was just, you can't get 9 points from your other starters. You just can't. It's not going to happen. So, they definitely missed totally in this game, and we'll get into that in a minute. Vuga and Ruth contributed a little bit off the bench, but we didn't get much from our bench either. And we're known now for our bench, for our depth. And when you don't get that, you're going to have problems against a team like Siena. Siena shot 43% from the field to our 37. It's not going to work. We shot 4 of 17 from 3. It's not going to work. And again, this is part of that back-to-back thing that King Rice hates so much. You exhaust yourself in a 1-point thriller the night before, and now you got to get up and play another game against the same guys that now have confidence against you. It's a reverse of what happened against Canisius for us. We beat them, didn't blow them out, but beat them pretty good the first game. And now Canisius has to come back and play us on our home court where we have all the momentum, all the confidence, and we beat the living hell out of them. And it's kind of what Siena had with us. It was they beat us, just got by the night before, and now they have all the momentum, all the confidence. They're not worried about their conditioning or anything people are talking about. They're just playing basketball, and they were really confident on that home floor, and it showed. Monmouth was marginally better at the free throw line, 12 for 18. I didn't even realize Siena shot 34 free throws in this game. That's a ton of points they got from free throws. And they beat us in the boards too. They had a 7-point margin on the boards. Surprisingly, Monmouth only had 12 turnovers. They actually took care of the ball pretty well in this game, but when you don't turn over Siena enough and you're not shooting the ball well and you're scoring in the 60s, you're not beating Siena most nights. I think they had a stat in the game that last year, I think Siena was 14-1 when they held their opponents under 70 or 65 or something like that. So you really got to get into a shootout against Siena in order to beat them. And we've seen that in years past too. Big story from this game, though, was Donovan Totley. It was kind of a non-story because he wasn't there in the first half. You're like, okay, usually he gets in, the 5, 6, 7 minute mark, gets his 20, 25 minutes, and the first half goes by and there's no Totley. And we're sitting and watching TV like, what the hell did he do wrong? Because you're not going to sit a guy over not playing well the night before. King Rice doesn't do that. There could be something where if the guy's playing selfish or if he's not buying into what they're doing, he would sit Jalan down. He would sit certain guys down. But he never completely benched a guy because of the way he was playing. There's always an attitude thing, whether it was Micah or Jalan or Ray. It was always an attitude issue or something off the court of why he sat you. So we figured, all right, he had to do something pretty stupid because he's not playing again. He'd already been suspended once because of protocols. So with COVID. So what did he do wrong this time? I don't know. But he gets in with about 10 minutes left in the second half. And he played well when he was out there. He did give you a little bit of a spark. But at that point, you're down 16. The game's over. So at that point, I get why King put him in. Personally, at that point, I would have rather just not played him because you're making a point and the game was pretty much over at that point. I get wanting to salvage it. I don't blame King for making the decision, but it was over at that point. And King made it very clear in the post-game press conference. He was very nice. And he said just like that, I was very nice to let him play it all today. That was the quote. And then he went on a rant and he said, I was super duper 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 nice. He said duper about 7 times. He was pretty pissed off at Totley. I don't know what the guy did, but King said he's working with him. He's working on making him become a better man. And that's what he promised all these parents. It's not just about basketball. And you know what? I praise King Rice for this. And I know you're probably all listening to me like, oh my God, they're in the press conference right now. They're not saying anything bad about King Rice right now. But you know what? I got to be honest. It has nothing to do with that because we're not asking questions anyway. We're not allowed to at this point. We're still kind of in a probationary period where we're listening, and we're very grateful to Gary for allowing us to do that. So I get the grace period, just allowing us to listen, which is great. But, I don't have a lot bad to say about King Rice this year so far. I got to give him praise for his decision on how he's handling Totley because it's not an easy move to make. You don't see Coach K and Roy Williams and these guys sitting their star players no matter what they did. Like, unless the guy robs a bank or kills somebody or maybe gets a DWI, they're not sitting those guys, for any reason. It's very rare you see a coach, even at our level in the MAC, sit a player as good as Donovan Totley because of an off-the-court issue. You don't see it. So I praise King for that. And he says over and over again over the years in the press, it's about building and teaching young men. It's not just about basketball. And as a parent, you probably really have to appreciate that because not everybody's going to look at it that way. Not to speak ill of anyone, but Iona, Clueless didn't care about that. He cared about winning, which is fine. You're a college basketball coach. You want to win. He did it in a way that I didn't agree with. He got, a lot of JUCO players and a lot of guys with criminal histories. And, I didn't like the way Clueless went about it. So I respect King for the way he does do it. And he doesn't care about who he suspends. He suspended Ray. He suspended Jalan. He suspended Micah. And there's more I'm forgetting about that he suspended. He doesn't care who you are. His best player, worst player, it doesn't matter. In the past, his quote would be, they're suspended because of actions that were unbecoming of a Monmouth man. So I won't speculate on what any of those actions were, but the point is, King's trying to set these kids up for life after basketball, and you have to respect that because some of these kids come from great families and backgrounds, and some of them don't. Some of them come from rough backgrounds. And the fact that King Rice is forcing these kids to focus on school and doing the right things and getting a degree and being a respectable person, that's huge for these kids' lives because not all these kids are going to play pro after they leave Monmouth. Most of them won't go pro. So the fact that he is instilling these values in these kids is something that's very admirable, and I appreciate King Rice for doing it. But aside from their future, it also sets up totally for the rest of this season, because we need this kid to replace Ray's production. Whether that's fair or not, it's true. We need him replacing Ray's production, and that's really what he was brought here to do. We need him to be the playmaker for us. So if King sets the tone now, and hopefully he learns and he knocks off whatever crap he's doing off the court, he's going to be special for this team. And we need him to be special for this team, because without totally playing at his best, I hate to say it, I don't see us winning the MAC. We need totally right next there with Dion and McClary and Malik and Pappas and Jarvis and these guys. We need that group together, and we need every piece of it together, because we don't have all these different options that are all stars. We have a lot of good pieces, and together they can win the MAC. You lose a couple of them, or they're not right, you're not winning the MAC. I hate to say it, it's not happening. So we need him to get right. So whatever that means, whatever he's doing off the court, hopefully it stops. And on another note, and I don't know if this is fair to say or not, but I'll say it anyway. If I'm Dion Hammond, I'm pissed off right now, because now, we know Dion's not the most vocal leader, although King has said that Dion's really found his voice as a senior this year. He's an even better leader than he was before because of it. He's getting on guys, and then we love to see that from Dion. And listen, we love Dion on this show. He's our guy. But if I'm in Dion's shoes right now, and maybe he is doing this, I'm pulling Donovan totally aside and saying, what the hell is wrong with you, man? I vouched for you. I got you here. Your high school teammate. I got you here, and you have the keys to the point guard position. It's yours if you want it. Once you get right, once you're playing with the team the right way, and once you take care of your off the court garbage, you're the point guard. You're the guy in the starting lineup. All right. You're the only thing holding yourself back, and you're making me look bad right here. So I need you to be better for this team and be better for me, because we can go to the tournament and win a ring this year if you get it together. So if I'm Dion, I'm pissed right now. So hopefully those guys are talking and figuring things out. I know King Rice is going to talk with Donovan, but hopefully those guys get it figured out, because if Totally figures it out and him and Dion are clicking together, that's a scary 1-2 punch. And then you add Pappas to it, who can score 30 points, as we've seen. You add Malik hitting shots. You add Jarvis and Ruddy and their physicality down low. You add McClary and Ruth getting in the mix, all the other guys in this team. This is a scary team if it all comes together. Siena's got all the star power. Iona's got Patino. St. Peter's has Shaw and the Giants down low. All right. Monmouth is as scary as any of those teams if these pieces are all hitting and they're working together and they're doing the right things. But that all needs to happen. We don't have the up and down star talent that a lot of these teams do, but we do have, in my opinion, the best 1 through 11 out of anyone, and we can interchange these guys all over the place. We've seen Gob Gabriel. We've seen Miles Ruth. We've seen these guys getting mixed up and playing really well lately. And once it all comes together, it's going to be nice to watch. I also think Jarvis Vaughn not being there this weekend was a huge loss. Siena's a physical team, and not just their guards, their forwards too. You got Camper, you got Young, who's a piece of garbage that I'll get into in a minute. Stormo's a nice solid player. He's tough down low. Like, losing Jarvis and then having Ruddy only play 12 minutes in the game for game 2, that hurt them badly, because now you're asking Vuga, you're asking McClary, you're asking Malik to play down low. Miles Foster, nice player, but doesn't have the physicality just yet. He's going to get there. You don't have that mean energy down low anymore. So that's, to me, why we lost game 2, was not having Jarvis available and Ruddy not getting as many minutes. That was a huge factor in game 2. It wasn't just the fact that Donovan didn't play, that we didn't shoot well. We got schooled down low. I mean, they were coming hard to us in the lane. They hit some threes, but they abused us under the basket. And if Jarvis is there, Young's not pulling his crap and staring down guys. I mean, that guy Young, I'll tell you right now, that guy Young on Siena, is an absolute punk. All right. I'm not going to use the words I want to use because I try to keep it clean on this show, but that dude is an absolute punk. All right. The guy gets fouled. It wasn't even a hard foul. It's a common foul where Vuga's arm gets tangled up with his, barely hits him. They call the foul, doesn't even fall to the floor, and Young comes through the lane, staring down Vuga like he wants to fight. Like, what kind of moron are you? Like, dude, you're a jackass. Like, seriously. So I have a feeling Young is going to be a guy that we hate at Siena. He's going to be kind of our next Jordan Washington, although he's a good player. He's not close to what Jordan Washington was as a player. But I have a feeling Young is going to be a guy that we absolutely hate because even the coaches in the sideline, he fouls out of the game where he basically slaps the guy for his 5th foul, and all 5 of his were fouls. Like, you couldn't even argue because he fouls everyone. He probably had 8 fouls in the game, but they let him go. Even the coaches are telling him to calm down because he's mouthing off. Like, that's a guy. It's easy to hate that guy, and he's a guy where you love to have him if he's yours, but you hate him if he's not yours. Yeah. So more of the story, Young's a punk, and I won't say to his face because he's 6'10" and he'd probably beat the hell out of me. But I'm on the podcast and I'm talking right now. It's my show, so I don't really care. Consensus says he's a punk. What do we have next? So listen, I know we got swept. This is not any reason to hit a panic button. Okay, it's disappointing, but guys, it's early. All right, it is so early in the season, and with this pandemic, we need to be very patient with these guys, especially the freshmen, the younger guys. They were not in camp. All right, they were not getting the work in that they usually do in the summer. Ruddy was out the entire preseason and is just getting back to playing form. These guys, this is not a normal season. All right. All the shutdowns are going through, not getting the normal practice time, the back-to-back games. This is difficult for them. This is really difficult. So we need to be patient with these guys. I get it's frustrating getting swept, and we shouldn't have gotten swept. We should have won game 1. That should have happened. But, guys, this is definitely not any time for a panic button. Trust me. Losing to Siena, it's not that we're 14 points worse than Siena. All right. We were missing Jarvis. Donovan didn't play. We missed free throws the first game. Those things aren't normal. Those are circumstances, We should have at least split them, but you know what? We didn't, and it's not that big of a deal. Later in the season, we'll probably look back at this game. If we lose out in the number 1 or 2 seed for tie-breaking purposes, we'll probably look back and say, well, we should have won that game. We should have made free throws. We should have won. But we always say this. The only thing that matters is getting a top 5 seed, getting the bye, and winning 3 games in Atlantic City. And actually, a couple years ago, we didn't even need the bye. We were the 6th seed. We still made it to the championship. We ran out of gas to a better Iona team. We just fell short. All right. The only thing that matters is 3 games in AC. That's all that matters. None of this matters as long as you're a top 5 seed. So yes, you got to win games, and they will. But that's the only thing that matters. Getting to the NCAA tournament. I don't care for the 5 seed or the 1 seed. We will be okay as long as we do well in AC. It doesn't matter if we lose a game in January. It doesn't matter. It's frustrating, but it's okay. But I will tell you this. Don't get swept next weekend. We got Marist coming to town. Got another home series. 4 more home games for us, which is great. We always play better at home. Always. They shoot it better at home. They trap and defend it better at home. Everything they do is better at home. Even with no fans, you're still seeing it. They whopped Canisius, who beat up Niagara, which makes no sense. But we got to figure things out this week because you get what I think is an overachieving Marist team. Although they're good, they're overachieving a little bit. They're coming in and riding high with a lot of confidence. Marist hasn't had a 4-2 record in the MAC in a long time. They're in 1st or 2nd place right now. They're feeling really good, and they want to come in and beat us up and sweep us. And they just split with Niagara, but they swept Manhattan on the road, so they can play on the road. And they also split with Canisius. This is a very capable team. So this is a big series for Monmouth, and you at least have to get a split. I'm not saying it's a must that they sweep Marist because Marist is not the little brother terrible team of the last 3 years. John Dunn's there. He's doing a good job recruiting. His defense looks like it's what it was or close to what it was at St. Peter's. But you got to get a split because, all right, you're 4-4. Okay, you're still fine. You're 5-3. Great. You're top of the conference. You're good. You lose both. You go 3-5. Again, it's not panic time, but you start getting concerned. 3-5. Now you're looking at climbing your way back up to the 5 seed, and you're towards the bottom of the conference, treading water. So I don't think we get swept by Marist. I think we at least get a split with them. And then after that, we get 2 home against Quinnipiac. We get, you got to get 3 out of 4. Right? In my opinion, in the next 4 games, you got to try to get 3 out of 4. Quinnipiac is not what they were. They're kind of a bottom feeder this year. They'll always be pretty good because of Dunleavy. He's a good coach, and they'll always get talent there. But to me, you got to try to get 3 out of the next 4 at home. All right, because after that, you go 2 at Manhattan, 2 at Iona, and then 2 at Niagara. You get 6 games in a row on the road, where you're hoping to at least split those. And then you get home against Fairfield, and you're at Rider end the year. So at least if you split these series here and hopefully get 3 out of 4 at home, it sets you up where if you slip up on the road a little bit, you're not in bad shape. But in the end, it's a frustrating sweep. It's a frustrating loss, but in no way is it time to hit the panic button. It is very early, guys. We got no conference games in, where King usually shuffles with the rotation. They're figuring out who's going to fit where, what works, what doesn't work. We didn't get that. This is still preseason or non-conference play, if you think about it. We usually get at least, 7 to 8 non-conference games every year against good competition. Well, we're only 7 games in. This would be the end of our non-conference play right now. So, I expect Monmouth at home to win 3 out of 4. I'm expecting them to turn things up this week. I'm sure King will be on them this week. I'm sure Totally will get ready. Hammond's going to play a lot better. He's going to have a little chip next week because of the way the first game ended with him. I'm fully expecting Monmouth to play a lot better this week. I'm expecting 3 out of 4. And we'll see what happens. But overall, again, it's early, guys. Don't worry about what's happening right now. Trust me, there's a lot of things going on in our world right now that are more important than a sweep against the best team in the conference. It's actually kind of hard to do this press conference. I'm watching the news. It's Wednesday evening, and I'm watching what's happening in Washington D.C. and it's crazy out there, guys. So be safe. Don't go anywhere. Just don't get involved in anything that's happening there. Definitely don't bring it here because I don't want that in New Jersey. Pandemic, guys, keep wearing the mask out there. Please keep being safe. We want to be able to watch basketball in person. We want to get back to our lives, whether you're with family, whether you're with friends, whether you're just at home. Unless you're leaving your house or unless you're in your house and there's no one else around, please wear the mask. All right. It's important. Let's get back to normal. I'll keep preaching that all year because I'm tired of people complaining about getting it and, well, I wasn't wearing a mask. Sorry. And, well, there you go. So you wear the mask. Bad things shouldn't happen. But overall, this is what we got right now, guys. So we got Marist coming up, and hopefully Monmouth can get back on track with 2 big wins there. Hopefully they can take care of business against Quinnipiac right after that, and we're back towards the top of the conference. All right. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Have a great night and be safe out there.